According to the 2020 census, the number of people living in the United States was 331,449,281. This represents an increase of 7.4% over the official population count from the 2010 census. This population growth rate is lower than the previous growth rate of 9.7% between the 2000 and 2010 censuses. In fact, the growth rate from 2010 to 2020 is the second slowest in U.S. history. The country's 7.4% increase in population this decade was only slightly more than the 7.3% increase between 1930 and 1940. For the regions, the South grew the fastest over the last decade with a 10.2% increase in population, followed by the West with 9.2%, the Northeast with 4.1%, and the Midwest with 3.1%. The Northeast grew faster this decade than it grew between 2000 and 2010, while the other three regions grew slower this decade than the last. When looking across the states, we see large variation in population sizes. The state with the largest 2020 census resident population was California, with 39,538,223. The state with the smallest population was Wyoming, with 576,851. However, the 10 most populous states each had a resident population between 10 and 40 million, while the 10 least populous states each had a resident population between 500,000 and 1.4 million. The population of most states grew between 2010 and 2020. Utah was the fastest growing state, with an 18.4% increase in population, growing to 3.3 million in 2020. On the other hand, 3 states lost population, with West Virginia having the largest rate of decrease at 3.2%. The population of District Columbia grew by 14.6%. Puerto Rico's population decreased by 11.8% to 3.3 million. Now let's get to the apportionment results from the 2020 census. The constitutional purpose of the census is congressional apportionment, which is the process of distributing the memberships or seats in the U.S. House of Representatives amongst the states every 10 years in a way that is proportional to each state's population. Since 1941, the law has specified that the method of equal proportions will be used to assign House seats to the states. And while the law does not require the Census Bureau to calculate the number of seats each state will get, we do it as a courtesy to the President. We apply the required method to the apportionment population of the 50 states, not including the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, because they have no voting seats in the Congress. The 2020 census apportionment population includes the number of people living in the 50 states plus the overseas population, which is a count of federal employees living overseas and their dependents living with them who are allocated to a home state. Since 1940, the regional trend with apportionment has been an increase in the number of congressional seats for the South and West, and a loss of congressional seats for the Northeast and Midwest. More specifically, since 1940, there's been a combined net shift of 84 seats to the South and West regions. Overall, the effect of the official 2020 census population counts on congressional apportionment is a shift of 7 seats among 13 states, which is the smallest number of seats shifting among the states in any decade since the current method of calculating apportionment was adopted in 1941. 6 states will gain seats in the House of Representatives. Texas will gain 2 seats, and Colorado, Florida, Montana, North Carolina, and Oregon will each gain 1 seat. 7 states will each lose 1 seat in the House: California, Illinois, Michigan, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. The number of seats for the remaining 37 states will not change. The states that will have the most representatives in Congress are California with 52 seats, Texas with 38 seats, Florida with 28 seats, and New York with 26 seats. These 4 states are the most populous in the U.S., with each having more than 20 million people, and together those states will hold about a third of the total seats in the House of Representatives. Also, each of the 6 least populous states will have less than 1 million people and will have only 1 seat.